Mother-in-law was suspicious upon meeting the groom. She had seen him before. Whether you believe in fate or not, you never know when or where you'll meet the love of your dreams. We all run into random people every day, but most of the time we never think about them again. But for a few moments, these chance meetings can turn into friendship or more. This next story is the tale of a chance encounter that changed their lives forever, not knowing it yet. Dreaming about finding a perfect person to spend the rest of your life with is a common thought. Most of us have had thoughts about a future relationship that involves great happiness, but the reality is something quite different. What if this person was someone we knew a long time ago? Memories tend to fade over the years, and looking back at old photographs can be really humbling. Our faces change a lot through time. How can we possibly remember a chance encounter with someone so many years ago? This next couple were exactly that. They were so happy and excited to get married when her mother dropped a bombshell about the groom. That changed everything. Wondering what happened? Keep watching to find out. Heidi Parker and Ed Savitt, both in her 20s, met while they were studying at the University of Newcastle in 2011. Ed had recently moved into a student apartment and couldn't figure out how to work some of the appliances. He tried to get the dryer working, but he had no such luck. He asked around to his neighbors, but no one was able to help him. Finally, he decided to call the person that had rented the apartment before him. Heidi came over to help Ed with the dryer. He didn't know how to use the washing machine in the student flat, and he found a piece of post with the name on it, realized I had lived there the year before, and decided I could help. What Ed didn't realize is that this chance meeting would alter the course of his life. Ed tracked Heidi down on Facebook and sent a message asking how the washing machine worked. When Heidi received the message, the first thing she thought was how handsome Ed was. He Facebooked me asking how the washing machine worked, and I let him know basically because he was hot, she laughs. As the pair talked about how to work the appliance, they noticed they both felt at ease with one another. Heidi, originally from Sheffield, and Ed is originally from London, but both had chosen to go to the Northeast to attend university. We just spotted each other, Heidi explains. Something about one another struck them each as special. We got chatting and hit it off pretty much instantly. The conversation gradually shifted from talking about appliances to talking about the lives and getting to know each other. The spark was instantaneous. They wanted to be around each other more and more. Heidi and Ed soon found they were spending all their free time with each other. From the moment they met at school, they were inseparable. They had numerous dates around the town, Newcastle in the United Kingdom. After university, I moved to London. And a few years later, we moved in together, buying a flat in Wandsworth. Heidi says of their story together. 4 years later, in 2015, Ed proposed to Heidi and she immediately said yes. They knew they couldn't live without each other and wanted to spend their lives together. It was time for Heidi and Ed to meet each other's families. Both families sat around the table and were telling tales of their lives and about Ed and Heidi's childhoods. Everyone got along wonderfully, but Heidi's mother, Kay, seemed distracted. As soon as Heidi's mother saw Ed, she was in a frantic panic. She knew something was up and was trying to search for something in her head. Heidi's mother thought Ed seemed familiar, as if she had met him somewhere before. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but she knew there was something familiar about Ed. She tried to look back through memories in an attempt to place Ed, but had no luck. Still, she couldn't shake this feeling that they had met before. As dinner went on and she looked around the table, she started to realize the whole Savitt family looked familiar as well. She couldn't get rid of this feeling that both families had already met, but where? Out of nowhere, my mom said, "When you were on a holiday in Turkey and you were little, you had little boyfriend called Ed." Heidi explains her mother didn't say anything past this, and everyone thought it was a cute story and laughed that maybe Heidi had a soft spot from men named Ed. Nobody thought anything beyond that, but Kay already knew something was up. Kay didn't want anyone to think something was wrong. She did her best to keep her thoughts to herself and be the perfect hostess at the party. She was attentive and involved in conversations with everyone. She was warm and friendly, showering everyone with love and smiles. The meeting of the families was a huge success, but there were still suspicions in Kay's mind. Although it was a wonderful party, Heidi's mother was counting down the minutes until the party was over and she could continue her search. The minute everyone left, she raced back to her house and began searching through old photographs. For some reason, she felt she had seen Ed's face in an old photograph somewhere. It took a while for Kay to find what she was looking for. 2 weeks later, as she was searching around in her attic, she found a 20-year-old photo album from an old family holiday abroad. Relief and joy flooded through her body as she found the photos she was looking for. As it turns out, 20 years earlier in 1997, the Parker and Seven families had both visited the same Turkey resort in Gumbat. There were photos of Heidi at the resort with another child, a 6-year-old boy. Kay remembers that this boy was also named Ed. Could it be that this was the same Ed that Heidi was now getting ready to marry? Kay was quite certain of her discovery, but she wanted to be absolutely sure before telling Heidi she found Ed's mom, Fiona, on social media to discuss her findings. Kay sent Fiona the image she had found and asked if this was, in fact, her son. Fiona was floored when she saw the image. There was Ed standing with 6-year-old Heidi 20 years ago in Turkey. The two looked so cute in the photos, and the mothers reminisced about how the young pair spent all their time together in Turkey after meeting at the kids' club. I was screaming. It was just unreal. Of course, I sent it to Fiona, then loads more photographs came out. Kay was so excited that her hunt was right, and what a beautiful story this made for the bride and groom to be. Once her suspicions were confirmed by Fiona, Kay sent the images over to Heidi. She sent me a picture in the toast of him, and it was my Ed, Heidi says. Heidi couldn't believe that in the photo was her and the man she was about to marry 20 years earlier. Heidi already felt so lucky to have found Ed in 2011 and was now over the moon to know they had actually met 20 years earlier. They put their discovery on social media and it immediately went viral. Not only did they already, but it seems that two had struck up quite the bond when they were 6 years old. None of us had any idea whatsoever that Heidi and Ed met before university. But during that 2-week holiday, they held hands most of the time, she gushes. I couldn't believe it. We were all stunned, says Heidi. I was astonished when I saw that picture. I just yelled, Mom, you know who that is. In fact, Kay did know who it was, having done her fact-checking with Fiona already. Fiona was able to look through her family photo albums and find even more holiday snaps of the young couple. Of course, I sent it to Fiona. Then loads more photographs came out, she explains. Kay wonders perhaps if Heidi and Ed had a subconscious realization that they shared that time together when they met as adults. The couple spent hours going over these newly discovered photos and sharing memories of that vacation. Of course, they were only 6 years old and couldn't remember meeting each other. Luckily, their families were able to fill them in about how they held hands and loved being around each other during that 2-week on the resort in Turkey. They forwarded over both families' photo albums of the trip and shared memories with each other and their families. I have no memory of meeting Ed as a child, but from the photos we had on spending an awful lot of time together while we were on holiday, Heidi explains. The pair loved the photos and the new beginning to their story so much that they used the photo of them at 6 years old as their wedding invitation. Heidi says, I was so in shock. I actually had to lie down. Ed was amazed too. We couldn't believe it. Wow. What a find by Heidi's mother, Kay. The pair married in Derbyshire in 2016, then went on the honeymoon in the Maldives. Heidi loves telling people how they met twice. Since getting married, Heidi and Ed have returned to Turkey to visit the same resort where the miracle meeting happened at the kids' club. Heidi says it was really exciting to go back to where the miracle began. She also recalls the first time she remembered meeting Ed in 2011, saying, I thought he was gorgeous. I thought he was actually amazing. All I can remember thinking is, well, he is hot. We got chatting and hit it off pretty much instantly. Heidi is so thankful to her mother for recognizing Ed and taking the time to look for the photographs. If you enjoyed hearing this story about Heidi, Ed, and their reunion after 20 years, be sure to click the like and subscribe buttons below. This will help us to continue to search the globe for more inspiring stories and send them straight to your inbox. It's crazy to think we could have got married, shared our lives together, but then never found out about this, Heidi says. From the moment we started dating, we were inseparable and knew we were going to be together forever. As it turns out, for Heidi, forever began a lot sooner than she thought. It started out as a real-life fairy tale, boy meets girl, girl meets boy. They stare at each other from across a crowded room, and they knew with all certainty they were the one with the hearts beating heavily. They fall in love at first sight and ride off into the sunset together. Well, almost. Beth Fenwick and Stephen Lyons from Somerset in the UK first caught each other's eyes as classmates back in 2009 when they were only 11 and dated and began a school romance when they were 13. Beth marked a 2009 Christmas diary entry with the news that the pair were officially together. However, the fleeting romance soon ended as they went in different directions. Beth and Stephen were living oceans apart, and Stephen moved over to Australia. The couple went on to date other people. One day in 2018, Beth stumbled upon Stephen's Facebook profile. She noticed he'd gone traveling, which is something she always longed to do. She immediately initiated a conversation with him not long after Beth suffered a health scare, and the pair began talking on Facebook daily. Beth found a tumor on her neck. While she was nervously awaiting the results, which came back showing the growth was benign and on planning an adventure for once it was removed. Stephen was so supportive to Beth in her time of need and even stayed up into the early hours to talk to her. Despite the vast time difference, Stephen helped Beth plan an adventure for when her healthcare was over. He was due to continue his travels to Japan. But he then ended up ditching his own plans and went back to his hometown or Somerset instead to be with Beth. Shortly after reunited, Stephen got down on one knee and proposed to Beth. While the pair were on holiday, the pair had been to look at a few venues, and Beth has her wedding dress as initially they were hoping on getting married in 2020. However, a bid to walk down the aisle in 2020 was unfortunately thwarted by the coronavirus pandemic. They plan to marry in 2021, much to the delight of both of their families. Their families think it's really cute too, as they have known each other practically their whole lives. Stephen had his heart firmly settled on Beth. From the first moment he laid eyes on her, he knew it was love at first sight and had always hoped they'd end up together. Beth also always wanted a fairy tale ending, but never thought it would ever happen. Sometimes life has a way of surprising you with the most magical moments at unexpected times. It's not often that you hear about people marrying those they went to school with, which makes us feel even luckier to have found each other again. Do you believe in true love? What about love at first sight? Some people do, and some have experienced falling for their true love at first sight twice. Puppy love is often seen as sweet and cute, but it usually does not last forever. These very early crushes at school usually don't translate to the lifelong relationships, but they are really forgotten. Matt Grodzki and Laura Shield crossed paths for the first time in Phoenix, Arizona, USA. They were just a couple of 3-year. They met while attending the same preschool. Soon after meeting one another, they immediately became best friends. They felt drawn to one another. From a very moment, they laid eyes on each other. No one could believe the beautiful bond these two created, and soon they became an inseparable duo. Everyone loved the little preschool sweethearts. While parents and teachers remained aware of Matt and Laura, no one paid too much attention to their unique bond. Like most toddlers, Matt and Laura were a little too young to truly understand deep friendship. However, the two began playing with each other, constantly becoming one another's partner in crime in no time. Little did Laura and Matt know that their friendship would be put to the test over and over again. Would their friendship survive what is about to come? When they first became friends, Matt would follow Laura around the playground all day long. In the beginning, Laura believed Matt was a goof. However, over time she began to enjoy his company and she got to know his charming and hilarious personality. Laura also realized how caring and amusing Matt was. Soon enough, Laura and Matt became hooked on each other, like two peas and a pun. They did everything together, from chasing one another around, playing hide and seek, to staying up during nap time so they could giggle and sneak around. Any chance they could, they found ways to spend time with each other. Laura would always pick Matt as a partner on field trips. One of the most common field trip locations became the public library, which that you always look forward to. The two loved reading, playing, and just spending time with each other. Matt often tried a variety of methods to impress Laura. His first tactic was always to try and make her laugh. While she didn't find most of the boys or many of the girls either that funny, Matt would do anything he could to make Laura giggle with delight. Teachers thought Laura and Matt had the most beautiful bond. As you can imagine, Laura and Matt soon wanted to spend time together outside of preschool. By this point in the friendship, their pair's parents had met and talked a few times and became casual acquaintances. During the weekends, the parents started planning play dates and movie theater visits. Matt and Laura became simply inseparable. Laura would always pick Matt as a partner on field trips to places like the public library, as it was guaranteed that he'd make her laugh. Usually little preschoolers even held hands. Despite their tender age, Matt constantly tried to impress Laura with several preferred methods of flirting. His best tactic was to recite catchy lines from Disney movies, particularly The Lion King, to get Laura's undivided attention. Even though they were just a couple of 4-year-olds, everybody could see that Laura and Matt were better friends than some adults. During their time in preschool together, they created the sweetest memories. Soon everyone agreed that the two were a little lovebird. A 4-year-old Matt was so convinced that Laura was his soulmate that he had no problem with letting his classmates know. One day he stood up in front of all his classmates and declared his love for Laura and said that he would marry her in the future. While no one took Matt's words too seriously, it didn't stop him and Laura from continuing to develop an amazing friendship. At their incredibly young age, Laura and Matt believed they would remain together forever. The two hated to spend any time apart from one another. If anything happened during the time they were apart, the first thing they did was to run towards each other and talk about the new experiences. In retrospect, it was very rare for such young souls to share such an incredible, unique bond. However, as preschool was coming to an end, their relationship would be put to the test. The pair had no idea about their parents' future plans for them. Soon enough, Laura and Matt would face a hurdle that would compromise their beautiful friendship. Time flew incredibly fast, and before they realized it was time for the parent to begin a new chapter in their lives. Kindergarten. When the time came to start kindergarten, their parents sent them off to different schools. In all likelihood, the parents probably did not know how much the separation would affect their children. Furthermore, the parents needed to make the best decisions for their children's futures. It wasn't a deliberate action, but the parents still needed to adjust to their new lives. While it was heartbreaking for both of the kids, Matt and Laura truly believed their friendship would remain despite the distance. Of course, they weren't going to be spending so much time together. Still, they had to figure out some way to make it work. Time waits for no one, and before they knew it, the time that the preschool sweethearts spent together decreased drastically. Soon enough, Laura and Matt found themselves preparing to embark on a totally different chapter. Over the years, it became harder than ever to find time for one another. As Matt and Laura navigated their way through elementary school, the annual Christmas cards started to matter less. Neither of them eagerly waited to see a picture of the other one attached to the cards as the years unfolded. It seemed the proverbial saying was true: out of sight, out of mind. Like most kids of their age, Laura and Matt were going through the motions of growing up. Furthermore, with everything going on in their lives, the pair didn't really have much time to mull over the changes. Little by little, they had grown accustomed to not being around each other often. Over the next several years, the only way the preschool sweethearts kept in touch were through their parents' annual exchange of Christmas cards. In the yearly photos, both Laura and Matt could keep track of each other's development. Still, the cards did not provide either with deep information, nor did it make up for a friendship. Middle school finally came to an end, and the preschool sweethearts began getting ready to start their first year of high school. Like most teenagers about to enter the high school world, Laura and Matt felt excited to start school. Unfortunately, the long-lost best friends went to separate schools even further away than their middle schools. It seemed less and less likely that the two would ever cross paths again. Soon high school started, and the two made even more new friends. One day out of nowhere, Laura was scrolling through a friend's phone and stumbled across Matt Grodsky's name in her contact list. Laura's heart stopped and she couldn't believe her eyes. Then she asked a friend how she met Matt and why she had his number. As it turned out, Laura's friend had attended middle school with Matt. Then she moved and switched schools, moving to Laura's. After Laura had made the connection, she told her friend about their preschool romance. While Laura decided not to give it too much thought, her friend had a rather outlandish idea. When Laura's friend heard the story about Matt and Laura's preschool romance, she instantly knew she had to act. Laura's friend told her that she wanted to set her up with Matt again. However, Laura didn't think it was the greatest idea. Regardless of Laura's reservations, her friend went straight ahead and gave Matt her phone number so they could reconnect after all those years. After Matt texted Laura, they agreed to meet at the cinema. Just like the old days when both arrived at the location, it felt like no time had passed at all. The preschool sweethearts immediately hit it off, making each other laugh and smile. After all those years, the pair's chemistry remained, seeming stronger than ever. Both felt somehow more now, however, a true, strong and mutual attraction to one another. So just 2 weeks after they reconnected, Laura and Matt officially started dating. Although it was challenging being in different schools, the pair remained determined to make it work no matter what. Nevertheless, they still had more hurdles to overcome along the way. Throughout high school, Laura and Matt went on dates almost every weekend and even attended one another's school dances. Once again, they became an inseparable duo. As high school ended and college started, Laura enrolled at the Northern Arizona University, while Matt moved over 1,600 miles away to Chicago and enrolled at Columbia College. Any people who have been in long-distance relationships can tell you how hard it is, and the preschool sweethearts found it just as hard. However, the couple had already experienced a semi-long-distance relationship during their high school years, so with a test run of sorts under their belt, the two felt confident they could take on the challenge. The couple figured out a schedule to see each other as often as they could. They also used FaceTime and other social media to keep up with each other every day. Laura and Matt remained positive they would stay together and make it through their first year in college. They figured if they could get through 1 year, they could get through them all. The longest stretch they spent apart was 20 weeks, but they still managed to make it work. While enjoying the authentic college experience, often they visited one another's campuses. At this point, there was no doubt that Laura and Matt were soulmates from the moment they first met in preschool. They were meant to be together. However, this time Matt didn't want to take anything for granted, nor did he want to see what time had in store for them. Soon the distance started to take his toll at Laura, while the couple had to spend a considerable amount of time apart. Laura and Matt's first year of college went by incredibly quickly. Before they knew it, another 2 passed, and they were about to start their final year of school ever. Matt wanted to surprise his preschool sweetheart with the most extraordinary and sweet gesture. While many ideas came into his mind, he decided a celebratory picnic was perfect, where it all started: the preschool playground. However, he also had a surprise of a sleeve, something that would make it far more than an ordinary picnic: the whole car ride to the preschool. Laura noticed that Matt looked very anxious and fidgety. Sure, he wanted a surprise, but he couldn't understand what could be so nerve-wracking for him. That was because she had no idea where they were going and wasn't aware of what else Matt was planning that would have everyone in tears. The moment of truth finally came. When the preschool sweethearts arrived at the surprise destination, Laura felt overwhelmed with emotion after all those years they had returned to where it all started. At first, Laura thought they were there for a picnic, but then all of a sudden Matt got down on one knee and asked the love of his life if she would marry him. Over the next year and a half, Matt Grodzki and Laura Shield planned their dream wedding, and when you think about it, it really was a dream wedding. One in the making for 20 years. After 2 decades, Matt had kept the promise that he made in front of the preschool class that he would marry the girl of his dreams, proving that true love really does exist. Preschool sweethearts Matt Grodzki and Laura Shield tied the knot in a beautiful ceremony at the Arizona Historical Society on December 30, 2016. For most kids in preschool, it's about finding your snacks and your sleeping mats, but for them it was about finding their soulmates. The wedding was such a special moment for both Laura and Matt. However, for them it was more about celebrating with the loved ones and commemorating their incredible love story than pictures or presents. Soon after they became husband and wife, Laura wanted to share her and Matt's story with the world. So that's when they posted about their heart-running preschool sweet story on the Instagram account, The Way We Met, which recounts incredible love stories and how the couples met. The heartwarming post quickly went viral, which came as a bit of a surprise for the newlyweds. Moreover, the preschool sweethearts knew that Matt had written play-by-play of the childhood experiences and their high school reunion, but they never expected people to love their stories so much. Their story became so popular that rapper and actor Tyrese Gibson heard about them and reached out to Laura and Matt. The star admitted that he is a true sucker for love and gave the lovely couple a 3-day trip to Miami. All expenses paid. Of course, the couple jumped right at it and took up the gesture for a holiday. Since Laura and Matt got married, life has been great for them. He works as a screenwriter and an account executive at a digital marketing agency, and Laura works for a non-profit organization helping foster families in need. Ask for what the future departs, the couple would love to have kids at some point. Right now, they're focused on their new puppy, Kirby, and a new house. The preschool sweetheart story is a fairy tale romance for the ages. Do you know of any love stories similar to these? Let us know in the comments below, as we love hearing what you have to say. Marriage is the most incredible time in most people's lives. To most people, the very act of marriage seems like a miracle in itself. This is a time when you see your soulmate and seal your lives together. You may have some idea what those lives are going to look like, or no idea at all. Either way, you are willing to go for a very wild ride together. You vow that you will stay together for better or for worse, in sickness or in health, and through whatever surprises life tosses at you. Who knows though what life will throw at you, and what if those surprises start at the altar? For some people that could have very negative connotations. For others it has a very positive meaning. This is the story of one of those very positive stories. Jackie Gonker never thought that she would spend part of her life in a wheelchair. She thought that she would hear those terrible words from a doctor that she might never walk again. However, in one moment, her life changed forever. Jackie was always a very strong athlete. She has dreams of going to the Olympics. She loved working out, and she loved gaining strength. Her mother said that she always loved the water. When Jackie decided to focus on swimming as a career, no one was particularly surprised. They thought that Jackie would make it all the way to the Olympics, at least until the moment that her life changed forever. When she was swimming one day, she completely emasculated where she was and she ended up hitting a wall. It was something that happened frequently to swimmers, and in the first few moments, no one thought anything of it, but when she didn't resurface, they realized that there was something terribly wrong. They'd rushed her to the hospital, and the doctor delivered the bad news later that day. Jackie had suffered a spinal cord injury, and it was unlikely that she would ever walk around. Jackie's heart was broken, as was her mother's. Her dreams of being a professional athlete seemed to go out the window. Jackie also thought that she would never be able to find love. She had always dreamed of being a bride, getting married, and walking down the aisle. Now, however, she couldn't imagine who would want to marry a girl in a wheelchair. A fast forward to 8 years later, and it seemed that the now 25-year-old Jackie was wrong about no one wanting to marry her. She had fallen in love with a wonderful man, and they had plans to get married. Jackie wanted to walk down the aisle more than anything. She knew that some brides had dreams of perhaps losing weight or perhaps finding the most beautiful dress in the world, but those things were not important to her. More than anything, she wanted to walk down the aisle to her beautiful husband and stand during the ceremony. The preparation started early. The doctors had told her that it would be unlikely that she would ever walk again, but they didn't tell her that it was impossible. Jackie had a feeling that even if they told her it was impossible, she would have tried anyways. Over the past 8 years, she had most relied on her wheelchair. She had been through a lot of physiotherapy, and it enabled her to be on her feet for short periods of time. However, whenever she was, her blood pressure dropped dramatically, and she had to sit back down. Jackie's calves were nowhere near as developed as they used to be when she was an athlete, and the calves are the second best pump in the body. The calves help pump blood through the body just like the heart does. If the legs aren't strong because someone is deconditioned or because they are unable to build up their strength due to illness, then the calves cannot pump the blood back up to the heart, and it ends up pooling in one's legs. When this happens, someone's legs turn very dark red and they often faint. That was absolutely the last thing Jackie wanted on a wedding day. Everyone around her thought that she was quite ambitious. Not only did she want to stand during the ceremony, she wanted to be able to stand for the entire celebration. It was quite a feat, but Jackie began working very hard. She kept it mostly a secret from a future husband. She always said that she had to work late, or she had to give to her parents or her friends to help with something. Her fiancé was a very trusting person, but looking back, Jackie jokes that he must have been suspicious that something was going on. She sees that as a true testament to why they got married. He trusted her absolutely, even when things seemed off. The big day was approaching and almost everything else was ready. Jackie had her dress, the venue, and the flowers. They had each chosen their wedding party, and most of the guests had RSVP'd. She knew that the week leading up to her wedding was her last shot to work as hard as she could, and she made sure to tell her physiotherapist to push her to be the best she could be. She went home every day tired and emotional and soaked in a hot bath. She told herself it would all be worth it the day that the wedding came. She looked at a wedding dress hanging on the doorway and smiled even as her legs ached. She even managed to bring herself to be grateful for that horrible accident all those years ago because it taught her just how stronger a person she was. She was determined and was even working on a strength until late night before the wedding. She knew that this was not how typical brides spent the day before their wedding, but she also knew that she had never been like other brides. On the day of the wedding, Jackie looked absolutely gorgeous. She looked like a mermaid with her dark green hair, and she had a very unique, ruffly dress on. Her mother and her bridesmaids helped her get dressed in a room off of the main hall in the church. Everyone complimented her on how beautiful she looked and how her husband was a very lucky man. Jackie felt very excited, and she also felt nervous. She wasn't nervous about marrying her future husband. She knew that was absolutely the best choice in the world, and she could not wait for the life that they were to have together. However, she was nervous about whether all her hard work would pay off. She got the final word that all the guests were assembled in the church, and finally it was the bride's turn to go down the aisle. She wheeled herself to the back of the aisle with her parents at her side. Jackie had made the unique choice for both of her parents to take her down the aisle, and the real reason was about to be revealed. The traditional bridal music began to play, and everyone expected her to wheel forward. However, she did something that surprised them all. She pushed her wheelchair forward for a foot or two, and then she locked the chair and used her arms to pull herself up. The music was automatic, or it would have stopped in shock. Everyone else certainly stared in shock as the beautiful bride stood up. Those very close to Jackie knew that she could stand for a moment or two, or sometimes up to 30 minutes on a good day. It was beautiful to see her strength emerge as she began to walk down the aisle. What they couldn't believe was that she continued to stand throughout the ceremony without wavering. She held the hands of her loving husband and stared into his eyes. Everyone thought she looked beautiful, a cross between a mermaid and a perfect bride. Her unique strength shone through as she managed to stay standing as their final vows reset. Her new husband had tears in his eyes, both from shock and in happiness as he stared at his beautiful bride. Finally, they kissed and they walked back down the aisle together to thunder applause. This was a moment that neither of them thought would ever happen, and they were both overcome with joy. However, it appeared the miracles were not over yet. She had more than just 30 minutes of strength in her. Jackie managed to remain standing for over 5 hours. She stood tall and strong in the receiving line as people greeted and congratulated her both on the marriage and the strength that she had found. She stayed standing throughout a toast that she made, and when the first dance came, everyone watched in awe as the beautiful bride danced with her husband. She did wave her at times, especially near the end of the night, when she was tired. But her husband acted as Cain and helped her wherever she needed to go. They were the perfect couple, and the wedding photos came out absolutely perfect. He has his arm wrapped around her and her head is lying on his shoulder. Many people asked Jackie how she managed to find the strength to do it, and she said that she managed it because of how much she loved her husband. She knew that he would love and accept her no matter what. However, it was because of how much he loved her and how much he believed in her that she was willing to find the strength to walk. She wanted them to have a wonderful, magical life together. She wanted to chase after the kids and take long walks on the beach. She knew that the life would be wonderful if she couldn't walk, and that he would take care of her. After all, her vows were about being in sickness and in health until death parted them. But Jackie also did not want to be defined by her injury. She wanted to be a pillar of strength for those who struggled, and she knew that she couldn't do that unless she pushed herself to be as strong as she possibly could. By finding the physical strength to walk, she found the inner strength to overcome anything that life put in her path. With her husband at her side, she knew that she could do anything. These days, Jackie is using her wheelchair less and less. Her strength is returning every day, and her husband is there to support her whenever she needs it. They really are a match made in heaven. I don't know of any stories off the top of my head. Could you tell me more about what you were looking for? We would love to hear your own story if you have one. If you don't, that's okay. Every story helps someone else, and having your story out there is always a good thing. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Stay tuned for the next episode. Many people asked Jackie how she managed to find the strength to do it, and she said that she managed it because of how much she loved her husband. She knew that he would love and accept her no matter what. However, it was because of how much he loved her and how much he believed in her that she was willing to find the strength to walk. She wanted them to have a wonderful, magical life together. She wanted to chase after the kids and take long walks on the beach. She knew that the life would be wonderful if she couldn't walk, and that he would take care of her. After all, her vows were about being in sickness and in health until death parted them. But Jackie also did not want to be defined by her injury. She wanted to be a pillar of strength for those who struggled, and she knew that she couldn't do that unless she pushed herself to be as strong as she possibly could. By finding the physical strength to walk, she found the inner strength to overcome anything that life put in her path. With her husband at her side, she knew that she could do anything. These days, Jackie is using her wheelchair less and less. Her strength is returning every day, and her husband is there to support her whenever she needs it. They really are a match made in heaven. I don't know of any stories off the top of my head. Could you tell me more about what you were looking for? We would love to hear your own story if you have one. If you don't, that's okay. Every story helps someone else, and having your story out there is always a good thing. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Stay tuned for the next episode.